So if we're pre-planning, okay, we use trusts and whatnot. But what if you're, let's say you've got a loved one right now. You've never worked with us before. Never even thought about this. In other words, you're one of the 98 percenters. Okay. Uh, People who find out about it generally do work with us. But let's say you have not. Okay. This is the first time you're hearing about it. And now your loved one, your spouse, perhaps, let's say it's a married couple. All right. Mom and dad's still alive. Mom now has the Alzheimer's. Dad's been caring for her. And now it's gotten beyond the point where dad can care for mom at home. Well, or can't care for her all by himself at home. And now he'd like to take advantage of one of those programs and one of them government programs that he's been paying for his whole life. And if it's at-home care, then we're talking about PACE, Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, or the other one is the waiver program, My Choice. These are both programs that deliver services to people who are living at home. They're different services. They provide different things. My favorite is PACE because it's all inclusive, because it covers everything. But if you really just don't need that much help, right, and you want someone to come out to the house, right, and that's the only thing that you want or need, okay, well, the My Choice program is not a bad option. I will say, though, that most of the time, it seems like the PACE program is a better fit, but it's all individual. It's what your family needs. But here's the problem: you've got a house, and you've got $200,000. Let's say you got a house and $200,000, and you're like, well, I gotta spend down till I don't have any money, so then I can qualify for the long-term care. This is, or you've got a house and a cottage, huh? You got a single wide on the lake, 40-foot lot, mansion, right? Very whatever. And let's say that's what you've got. And now you need help with the long-term care. You get 200,000, your house, and a single wide. Okay. Now the traditional advice is, well, you're able to keep 100,000, half of the cash, but you got to get rid of the single wide. You got to get rid of that extra asset. Okay. Or if you have two cars, you got to get rid of one of the cars or your boat or whatever it is. That's the idea. Keep half the cash, get rid of everything else, but you can keep the house until you die. And then we're coming after that also. Well, what if you don't want to give up any of it? What if you say, I've been paying my taxes, which is how this all gets paid for. I've been paying for this program for the last 50 years. I would like not to go broke. Plus, I'm not, I'm still here. I would still like to go fishing once in a while and maybe sit on the veranda of my single wide, look at the pond, look at the lake. What if? Okay, so what we do in a situation like that is, first of all, determine, well, how much does the at-home spouse, get to keep? And as I say, generally that's the homestead plus half of the countable assets. Generally speaking, it's cash. But here we've got the single wide out on the lake. So that'd be whatever that's worth. Okay, that's also got to go. All right, you get to keep half, right, of both of those things. So you get to keep half of the single wide up to a maximum, it's around $140,000 now. But then you got to get rid of everything else. Okay, fine. What if you don't want to get rid of it? The answer is there's a trust called a spousal benefit trust. That's what we call it. Or you could call it the solely for the benefit of trust, because that's what they say. If you create a trust solely for the benefit of your spouse, right, and you hold the property in this trust that is solely for the benefit of the spouse, well, you can keep it. You say, well, wait, does that make any sense? Does that make any sense at all? That if you have it in your name, you got to get rid of it. But if you own it in a trust, then you can keep it. Yeah, I get that it makes no sense. Okay. But it's not about, I mean, it's like taxes, right? I mean, what sense does it make? Who cares what sense it makes? That's the reality. That's the way it works. Okay. So the key to this trust, and you set it up now, you don't have to pre-plan for it. Now, the reason we're not in favor of it is because it's a state by state thing. So Michigan could decide you can't do that anymore. But the 5-year planning that we do, the pre-planning, most effective, least expensive, right? That works for sure in all 50 states. Why? Because it's based on the federal law. Okay? Federal law provides for that. The 5-year, the 60-month look back and all that. But we don't get that with this technique. And in fact, the state of Michigan tried to get rid of it. This was, gosh, that'd be at least 10 years ago. And the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. So now we still have it. But if they change the rule, then they could change the rule, then going forward, you wouldn't be able to do it. So you can't rely on it. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where, yeah, it works that way now, but if they change it, then it wouldn't be good. Whereas there are things that you can do that you can rely on. That's what we're suggesting. But if you're in the situation right now, because you didn't pre-plan, and right now you want to take the house off the table, you want to take the cottage off the table, you want to take the excess money off the table, this is one of the ways. There's other ways. And for single people, this is not available for single people. This particular technique, it's a married person technique. Or if you have a disabled child, let's say you have a disabled child. So you can set up a trust solely for the benefit of the disabled child. This is why when people disinherit a disabled child, and they do it all the time, they disinherit and then double up the inheritance to the other kid. It's like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that at all. Just set up one of these things and you be fine. And the kid actually gets their money and you don't subject it to all that risk. But my point is right now, if you have a loved one, mom, dad, spouse, whoever, married couple or not, right? I don't want you to have the excuse saying, "Oh, I didn't know you did that." Yeah, we do that. You know, we've saved, I don't know how much, for a couple thousand families now over the years, right? This Medicaid stuff, is it difficult? Yeah, it's difficult. Is it confusing? Yeah, it's confusing. Okay, but so what? It's what you got to do.